Welcome into Kill the Quit, brought to you by Kill Cliff. I'm your host, Mark Zinno. This week's guest is a former Navy SEAL, became a professional MMA fighter, and now is an entrepreneur of sorts with a clothing line and superfood blend called Smashin Greens. He is Mitch Aguiar here on Kill the Quit, brought to you by Kill Cliff. Mitch, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, so look, not many people can say they were a Navy SEAL and an MMA fighter, so we have a lot to get through and a lot to unpack, but let's start kind of back at the beginning because it's interesting how people find their way into the Navy SEALs. Is it something you always wanted to do as a kid, or did you kind of figure it out later on in life?
Yeah, no, it was definitely, I never planned on or intended or wanted to be a Navy SEAL. It was just kind of just spur of the moment. I didn't really even know what they were. I was just, at the time, a Navy recruiter just happened to catch me, at a time where I was down for anything, kind of ready to leave where I was, and I was like,
well,
yeah,
what was
sure,
it like growing up
sign me up.
Because I mean, if you didn't know anything about it as a kid, did you play sports a lot or anything?
Yeah, I did. I definitely played sports growing up. I played football, basketball, lacrosse, and a little bit of baseball, but I didn't really like it. And I always wanted to play hockey, but I'm a terrible ice skater, so I never got to play hockey.
Are you from the north?
No, I'm from Virginia Beach.
Okay, so there's not a lot of ice there.
There's not, no.
Okay.
There's like one ice rink, and that's where I found out that hockey wasn't really in my future. I just wanted to play hockey because that was the only sport that I knew of that they let you fight. And so, I was like really just wanting to play hockey so I could fight people. And
they have a word for that in hockey. It's called a goon.
Yeah.
Oh, you wanted that role?
Yeah.
Okay. All
yeah,
right,
no.
well,
So I had no intentions of, the other parts of the sport.
don't worry about skating,
But then
passing,
I was like,
shooting, scoring.
now MMA's a sport, so, who cares about ice skating?
All right, so, but that desire to fight, you never thought about boxing as a kid?
I did, and I just, I don't know, I didn't really like the going to, doing all the learning how to box and all that. I just
So you wanted
to
brawl.
fight. Yeah, I just wanted to brawl.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. I mean,
I'm terrible on pads still to this day.
Really?
Like, yeah, if you see me hit pads, it's pretty comical.
Wow. All right, so where were you? Were you out of high school when you joined the Navy SEALs? Were you still finishing up high school?
I just finished high school.
All right, so you had no idea what job you wanted to get into? Were you a good student? Did you think about college at all?
I was a terrible student, so I knew college was definitely not going to be in my near or immediate future. I barely made it through high school, not because I was like stupid. It just wasn't for me. I hated being there. I was a class clown and like a flirt. I just wanted to. It was more of a social thing. But I made it through, got my degree and or whatever you call it, diploma, yeah, not a degree. And
I won't tell anybody the difference.
Yeah, whatever.
You can say degree, it's fine. Did you actually get into a lot of fights in high school though? And in grammar school, you did?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, I got in a lot of fights growing up.
Okay, I want to unpack this a little bit because I'm curious. I mean, I think every kid, every guy, every boy has a fight, right? At some point in time, you meet out at the playground or whatever. I've been in a couple of those, but was it something that you were always the initiator of, or?
Yeah, no, I'll definitely always throw the first punch for sure, but it's not like I'm a bully. I'm more of I bully bullies. And,
right. Okay.
Growing up, my little brother was fat. And he was only a year younger than me, and my parents, they both told me like, hey, your brother's, going to get picked on and stuff like that, and, you need to protect him and not let anyone mess with him, and if they do, then make a statement kind of thing, and I took that to heart, and I, grew up fighting all the time.
Was that the impetus for a lot of the fights if somebody was picking on your brother?
Yeah. Yeah, that, and, just in general, like, I just didn't, I was a really happy-go-lucky kid and person, and I still am. I just, I don't like it when people just feel the need to bully others or, for any reason, like, just make your life uncomfortable or whatever. Like, that, to me, is just like, okay, well, let's see how you like it,
I mean, so, like, I'm sitting next to you here for those listening on radio, and you're not a big guy in stature, and you're smiling a lot. So I'm
jacked. I'm huge.
Yeah.
For those of you guys that can't see
Just imagine he's a big,
I'm actually
big, burly,
huge.
bulking man, 6'5", 300
Way
pounds.
bigger than him.
But I mean, the reason why I kind of give the audience the visual, but you smile a lot and you have a pleasant personality. So when you got into fights, was it like a switch flipped?
For sure, yeah. Yeah.
But what's that like? Like some people have that gear.
I love it.
I can get in a defensive mode. I can get in a protective mode. I can even be in an aggressive mode. But that switch flipping thing is a different level.
Yeah, I don't understand what it is. I know, like, I am very happy-go-lucky by nature, but if I see, like, someone, like, bullying... Can we swear on this? I don't know. I'm like, when I see someone bullying someone, you know, it just... I don't know. It just... There's something in me that just wants to go... I don't know if it's, like, I want to more so defend that person or just, like, bully that bully. I don't know what it is, honestly, that makes me that way. But I mean, nothing is better than, like, to me, than when someone's being an asshole and, like, imposing their will and bullying someone who, you know,
that you take it back.
You know, that I just go fucking hammer them.
All right, so
it's better than sex.
Do you know? That's interesting. Do you know your record in high school? Do you remember any that you won, lost?
Oh, for sure. I'm undefeated.
Oh, really? You never lost?
In a street fight? No, I'm for sure. Yeah, undefeated.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Were they around like big crowds or was it stuff in the hallways? I mean,
I
don't know why I'm so curious about this.
Yeah, no, it's just anywhere. I mean, like.
So it was a spur of the moment thing. If you saw it, you addressed it immediately.
Yeah, always. You know,
there was no meet me by the trees. At
no.
3 p.m.
I didn't do that shit.
Okay.
It was, you know, if there was something going on, it was handled right then and there. And you know, that was probably because my parents like told me to do that. You know, like, you know, make a statement, like beat their ass right there. It doesn't matter if you're in the principal's office, cafeteria, whatever. Like, I'm not. It doesn't matter. I wasn't worried about, like, you know, when you're a kid, like, your parents are like the cops,
right? Sure,
you know what I mean? Like, now that you're an adult, like that's the authority that like gets you in trouble or whatever. And you know, and I had a green light, so
nice. All right, so you finish high school, undefeated record. Let's remember to keep throwing that in there.
That's right.
You finish high school, and how do you come across the Navy recruiter?
I was actually working. My mom had like a little deli convenience store in Ohio at the time I was living there. I lived there with her for like 2 years to finish up high school, and I was there working at her store, just helping her out there. And a Navy recruiter came in, and he was like, "Hey, you want to join the Navy? You know, just being a recruiter." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?"
Knowing nothing about the Navy, you had no military, anybody who was in or anything?
My mom. I had family in the Navy, especially my mom, my dad. They were both in the Navy, and my stepdad was in the Navy as well. But I had no intention of joining the military. Like, you know, I have terrible military bearings still to this day. You know, I'm kind of a free spirit and just like wild and want to do
no, but
whatever.
Did you have a problem with authority per se, or was it just kind of the general regimented structure of everyday life?
I question things, and that doesn't really always fly in the military, especially. It's just do this. Why? Because I said so. Well, I mean, because we've always done it. Like those answers, or to me, I'm just like, well, is there a better way? Like, you know, and that doesn't always fly, especially, you know, you just got here, you don't know anything or whatever. It's like, well, I mean.
Doesn't mean I'm a dummy.
There could be a better way, you know? So, I don't know.
But you decide to do this knowing that the military life and Mitch don't exactly mesh well.
Well, I don't know. I guess.
By the way, he's opening a kill clip for everybody listening.
Yeah, I'm opening a kill clip. Kill the quit. So I took it when he had asked me if I wanted to be join the Navy. I was like, well, you know, I really don't like where I'm at in Ohio. It was just a boring area, and I wanted to, you know, just go do something else. And like I said, I just graduated high school. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do, but and I was like, well, it's only 4 years. I'm young. Like, I could go see the world, like get paid to do it, whatever. that could be cool, and who knows what'll come from it. And he's like, well, you look like you're in good shape. You want to be a SEAL? And I was like, what's that? Aren't those like the sneaky guys or whatever? And he's like, yeah. My mom was there, and she was like, they're like the rock stars of the military. She's like, if I saw you in the military, I would see you as a SEAL.
That's great, because like, I just have to run real quick. You said the sneaky guys. Killcliff has a lot of Navy SEALs, in the ranks. You ever called them the sneaky guys prior to, let them know you thought they were the sneaky guys?
No.
Okay, all right. I just wanted them to know that's how you labeled them prior to becoming one. But so they entertain you with the idea of being a sneaky guy, and you're like, cool?
Well, it wasn't. He didn't entertain me with that. I just remember seeing a commercial one time, and it was like the one where the waves are crashing down at night on the beach, and then like the cloud goes over the moon, and then it gets like real dark for a second, and then the cloud passes, and then there's footprints coming out of the water. So,
pretty badass stuff, huh?
Pretty sneaky. I don't know.
I got very, very sneaky. Okay, so when you sign your enlistment contract for the Navy, do you actually sign up to be a SEAL at that point in time?
When I went through, you had to pick like a regular job,
right?
And then
now. You can get straight SEAL contracts right now.
Well, you had to pick a regular job, and then once you like swore in, I promise I'll join the Navy. Once you do that, and it's like official, then you could take a PST, which is like a physical standard test, and then if you pass that, then you got a contract to go to BUDS.
Right. Okay.
And so I joined originally as a Master at Arms, which is like the gate guards or like the military police or whatever, and I signed up for that, and then I did my PST and got my contract, and then I went straight through.
But you did no research at all about what the SEALs were about?
No.
Like, didn't even bother to know what BUDS was? Know anything going in?
No. And
interesting.
My dad was when my dad was in the Navy, he was a combat cameraman attached with Dev Group.
Okay.
So he knew all about the SEALs and BUDS and everything, and I didn't know shit about it, but I had called him and I was like, "Hey, Dad, I'm gonna be a SEAL," and he was like, "What? Like, do you have any idea what you just signed up for?" And I was like, "No, not really. I'm gonna join the Navy." And he was like, "Okay." So he bought me the BUDS Class 234 Discovery Channel documentary.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so that was my first look into it. And no bullshit, actually, back up. Right after I signed the contract or whatever, and I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. Then I watched the movie Navy SEALs with Charlie Sheen.
Uh-huh.
And, the scene where they're like, he's showing her BUDS and stuff, and it's really not BUDS. They're like in the woods somewhere, and there's grenades going off, and they're like army crawling under barbed wire and shit. And I was just thinking like, oh damn, that looks pretty intense. I was like, I guess I got to get ready for that. And then the Discovery Channel thing was a little more in depth and realistic, and but even that's it gives you a pretty good idea of like kind of what to expect. I feel like they do a pretty good job painting that picture, but that's still a couple hour documentary on a I was in training for like 22 months or some shit.
Yeah, so it's
very sugar coated, but gets you the broad strokes.
It does. It's edited for TV, as they say.
Yeah.
Formatted for your television. All right. We'll take time out. When we come back, we will get through Mitch's time in BUDS and his career as a SEAL and on to becoming a professional MMA fighter. I'm Mark Zinno. This is Kill the Quit, brought to you by Killcliff. Our guest this week, Mitch Smashin Frog Aguiar. We'll be right back here on Kill the Quit. Welcome back to Kill the Quit, brought to you by Killcliff. I am Mark Zinno, your host. This week's guest, Mitch Smashin Frog Aguiar. He's here in studio with us. He is a former Navy SEAL for 10 years, professional MMA fighter, and an entrepreneur. He now has a superfood blend and clothing line called Smashin Greens. And Mitch, we last left off. You were going right into your Navy career, your Navy life, and you get through basic training, right? And knowing what you knew about the SEALs, when you went through basic training, you were like, oh, this is easy?
I really just had it in my in my mind, after I watched that documentary, I got really, I got hyper focused on Hell Week. Like I didn't give a shit about really being a SEAL. I didn't care about any of that stuff. It was more like I saw Hell Week as this epic challenge, and my dad was like, "So you think you got what it takes?" And at this point, like I had already told people that I was going to be a SEAL, like before I even watched this documentary.
Yeah, and, open mouth, insert foot.
Yeah, so and I'd already like said I was going to do it. So like I'd feel like a pussy if I didn't. So I was just like, well, I'd rather die than that be the case. So let's do it. And then I got like I said, really focused on Hell Week, and I got like obsessed with either like thinking about Hell Week, training for Hell Week, whatever. So,
but basically, it's easy then from a physical standpoint.
Well, so that's how I had my mind wrapped around Hell Week. I was like, why do I even have to go to boot camp? Like I'm going to Buds. Like I thought boot camp was like before joining the military or anything like that. I always thought of like when you joined the military and like boot camp was pretty extreme shit, and it's like that's where you go and they wake you up early and and it's like all about discipline and just becoming a robot or whatever, and then I learned about Buds and Hell Week, and I was like, whoa, that's the real serious, kick in the nuts. And I was like, that's got all my focus. And I was, like I said, I was like, why do we even have to go to boot camp? This is stupid. So then I had to go to boot camp, and that was a whole nother challenge. It wasn't physically hard. It was just like
an adjustment.
It was, like I said, I have no military bearing still. And like, so that was a struggle for me. Just standing still, like, just standing still and not talking. Like, whew, man, that's rough. I have really bad ADD, and so boot camp was a struggle for me in that sense. Not physically, it was fine. And then,
were you relieved to get through it?
Oh hell yeah, yeah.
Were you relieved to get through it because it was over, or relieved to get through it because you knew you were going to Buds next, or both?
I was relieved that it was over because it was so annoying.
Right.
And then, and then it was like, okay, now I can finally do what I came here to do, which was go to Buds. And, and in boot camp, when you're trying to go be a SEAL, they have you do extra shit in the morning. So you have to wake up before everyone and go work out for 2 hours and then start your boot camp day. And I remember like getting in trouble because I snuck out and was out too long on Sunday. Like they let you go to church or whatever. So I just took my time or whatever, and I got in trouble, and they started beating me, and they were like telling me that they were going to make me quit. And I'm just thinking like, what are you guys wasting your time for, like trying to make me quit here? Like I'm not even at Buds. Do you seriously think I'm going to quit here in boot camp? I mean, and people did a lot,
Really?
Oh yeah. There was, I think, out of the 80 candidates or whatever that were in my boot camp, all trying to be something special, only 2 of us made it, like, to actually become SEALs.
Oh, wow.
And that's before you go through the Buds prep and then actual Buds. I mean, shit, it's a huge failure rate,
No, obviously, the attrition rate is massive.
And I was always very realistic about it, and...
Did you tell a lot of your fellow sailors when you first got in that you were heading to Buds? Was it something that you told a lot of people, or you just kept it to yourself?
I mean, everyone
knew?
Once we were there, like in boot camp and shit, everyone was there because it's like a special ops, like, or candidate division.
Right. Okay. All right. Gotcha. Okay.
So everyone there is like doing push-ups, and at night after the instructors leave, and they're all talking about what SEAL team they're going to go to and this and that, and then they quit in the morning.
Yeah, very nice. All right. So when you get to Buds and Hell Week kicks off, were you mentally ready? Were you physically ready?
When Hell Week came, I had like built it up so much in my head, and I'd already been in Buds, like training and like about this life, and Hell Week was, like I said, like my sole focus. I didn't care past Hell Week. I just Hell Week. I want to get to Hell Week, and I was so nervous and everything. And I remember talking to my dad right before on the phone, and because Hell Week, you start on Sunday and you go until Friday, and you get a 2-hour nap on Wednesday and a 1-hour nap on Thursday. And other than that, you're, soaking wet, cold, just going 100, wet, cold, sandy with a boat on your head, just going balls to the wall. And I knew that it was going to be like crazy or whatever, but I had it built up so much in my head that I thought like Satan was going to pop out of the ground and like, just start running shit. And I remember being like super nervous, and I called my dad and I was like, "Yep, we're getting ready to start," and he was like, "All right, I don't want to hear from you this week. Just give me a call on Friday and say, 'Dad, I made it.'" And I was like, "All right, I'll do that." And I was just sitting in the tents, like waiting to start. And all of a sudden the machine guns start shooting and the grenades are going off, and it's just, they got smoke everywhere and it's just chaos, and they're, come in there screaming with the bullhorns, and it's like, oh shit, this is actually Hell Week. Oh my God, it's actually starting. And, we run out and hit the surf, and we're bear crawling back, and we're push-ups, and all the shit's going on for a few minutes. And I was like so on edge, and I was just like, oh my God, it's actually happening. And then I was like, wait a second, I'm in Hell Week. I'm doing it. Like, I'm here right now doing it. Like, this is it. And I was like, it feels like just like every other day, like nothing's different. But now I'm in Hell Week. That's the label of the time I'm in. And I was like, oh, well, this is no different than any other fucking day. And I was like, so I'm just gonna, fuck yeah, I'm gonna make it. And like right then and there, like a couple minutes into Hell Week, I knew for sure that I was gonna make it. And that just like, I became like so, I almost felt like a fucking superhero, like the Hulk or some shit. Like I just was like so amped up, and I was so on cloud 9 because this epic challenge that I had like focused so much of my like energy and thoughts on and everything was here. And I was like, it's happening. I'm doing it, and I'm not going to quit. So I know I'm going to make it. And it just fueled me like crazy. And I was super excited and happy and like just smiling from ear to ear, and was just so pumped up the whole time.
Did that tick off the instructors that you were smiling the whole time?
No, they loved it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, because, the instructors, it's buds to me is like, they're the gatekeepers, to the SEAL teams. Sure. So they're the ones, that's the chopping block, they're the ones that are keeping people that shouldn't be there, or getting to the teams. They're keeping the weakness out.
Right.
So and it's a really weird environment, because it's kind of like the students versus the instructors, but it's also like they encourage you guys to flip on each other and like eat the weak, and it's a weird environment. But, I just remember being super fired up, and, and they were all about it. So,
it's interesting. At any point during Buds, did you feel like physically you couldn't make it?
I was a terrible runner. I'd never run like further than a mile before I signed up. Mm-hmm. And I remember like seeing that documentary, and they do a 4-mile timed run, and I was just like, why the hell would anyone run 4 miles? Like, is that real? And I was in high school, so I didn't know like a whole lot about anything in life. But I was just like, is that really something, people do? Like, I don't know. That's
sometimes people run 26 miles,
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm aware really now. I'm aware now. I've done it myself now. But, so running was definitely my biggest struggle physically in Buds. I I was like giving it all I had and like praying every timed run we have, because in buds there's timed evolutions that like, you know, if you don't meet the time, then you get cut or dropped, you know. And so that the run was always a struggle for me. I had to really give it everything I had.
For those listening who aren't military and don't know anything about buds, the attrition rate is somewhere around 85%, if not higher.
Yeah, I think it's like 90-something.
It's close to 90%. So as you mentioned before, there's only a small handful of people who go through a buds class that will actually become Navy SEALs. And I ask this of all the SEALs, and anybody who listens to Kill or Quit knows that I ask this repeatedly because I'm fascinated by the difference in the variety of the answers. But again, for those listening who don't know, people can voluntarily walk out of buds and drop on request to call it DOR, and they go up and they ring a bell and they say, look, I'm done. This isn't for me. And they walk out. And, you know, it's not about the shame or anything that they feel, but I always just wonder, for people who get through, what is that bell ringing? When you heard it, what did it mean to you? Like, what did it signal in your head?
It got me pumped up, like, because I'm real competitive.
Sure.
You know, and sometimes, you know, but then, like, seeing your friends quit, you know.
Well, that was my other thing, too, because I was going to go to that next, because you get close with some guys who get there, and I don't know if they talk to you about it ahead of time, say, man, I don't know if I can make it, and you're kind of like begging them, stay, man, you've come this far.
It's a weird fucking environment. Sorry for cursing so much, but it's a weird environment, like, because, like I said, it would excite me, you know, like, and hearing the bell ring, like, and you're still there, you know, that competitiveness in you is like, all right, yeah, they quit, but I'm still here, I'm still going, you know, and it's kind of motivating. And then other times, like, seeing your friends quit, you're like, no, like, what the hell, you know. And then I know for some people too, they've watched people that they thought were better than them quit, and that makes them question, like, whoa, if this is too hard for him, how am I gonna make it? And
but the flip side to that too is that if that dude quit, I'm still here. I can't believe I'm better than that guy. Okay, that's like a lift up, isn't it?
I don't know. I would imagine, but I mean, I'm just saying from people that I know that's happened to, that was their mentality. My mentality was, you know, like I said, competitive. And sometimes I remember in Hell Week specifically, we did this, I think it was on Monday or Tuesday, and we had to just run a mile on the beach. It was like just run a mile and come back. So it was like a 2-mile run, and we didn't have a boat on our head for the first time, and you know, the whole time we were training. And like, Hell Week is so intense that like they have so many instructors like in your face all the time and shit like that. So this was, to me, it was like, whoa, this is like a little break, you know. And I'm a terrible runner, you know. At this point, I was like a terrible runner. So I was just like, all right, cool. We get to take a little jog. This will take me a little while, you know, because I'm not a very good runner. And I remember passing this guy who was a real strong runner previous to Hell Week, and I was friends with him, you know, because I was only 18, so I was like, you know, there was kind of like cliques forming and stuff like that. I hung out with a lot of the younger guys just because, you know, different maturity levels and stuff. But he was a younger guy, and I remember coming up on him on the beach while we were running, and I was like, hey man, I was like, we're doing it, and like smiling and kind of laughing because I was like, man, we get a break, you know. And I remember like saying this to him, and he turned and looked at me, and he like had just like terror on his face. And I was like so confused, and I was like, what's going on? And like he was like catatonic, he wouldn't talk. And then when we got to the finish line, he quit. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, so weird. I was like, this is like the easiest thing we've done so far, and like, why are you quitting? It's a really interesting time.
That's amazing.
One of my favorite weeks of my life, for sure.
You're a sick man, you know that.
I swear to you, like I had like brought it up like almost every year I was in the teams. Like, I think that we should do Hell Week or something similar every year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
As like a training exercise?
Just to keep you hard.
Yeah.
Like keep you mentally like hard, you know, and I think there's a lot of, I've seen it. Unfortunately, there's people that do something hard and then once and then that's it, and they'll talk about it for 20 years, you know. And I think that it's perishable. I think mental toughness is perishable. I think you need to constantly test it and check yourself, and that's why I do things like, that's why it's cool for like Kill Cliff. They just sponsor me. Basically, they'll do, you know, if I want to run across the Grand Canyon, you know, will you guys sponsor me? They're like, fuck yeah. They're all about killing the quit, you know.
If you don't practice killing the quit will kill you.
Man, it's you can't just do something hard, like even real hard, and then 20 years later think that you still got it if you've never done anything to keep that up. So like I try to do really hard shit not constantly, but definitely enough to keep me mentally sharp or tough. And you know, whether it's cutting weight for fights or, you know, whatever. I go in the sauna for 30 minutes with no water after every workout just for the mental push. Like that's it. I don't do it for anything other than that. But like I take on these things, you know, especially with my role now, it's kind of morphed into because of Instagram. Like I'm looked at as like a motivator, or, you know, someone people find inspiration from, which I never intended to be that person, you know, but I think it's like it's kind of a cool role because I've seen how many people have, you know, I've been able to
connect with and
and like they've like told me like that they've been able to push themselves or whatever. I don't understand it, but I embrace it, you know. And to me, in order to like be credible, you know, I have to practice what I preach. I can't just tell you, hey, don't be a pussy. Mindset is everything, you know, just push through it, and then never ever put myself in a position and just like, well, back in the day I used to do this and that, so you can do it too, you know. So I feel like just in order to maintain credibility, you gotta be about it.
So
you
real
can't just
quick,
talk about it.
Was graduating Buds like the best moment of your life?
No.
Oh, okay. We'll get to that. Then. Obviously, there's something more. There's something bigger.
Oh, I don't know.
There's something better. So we will get to that. He is Mitch Smashin Frog Aguiar, and he is our guest this week on Kill the Quit, brought to you by Kill Cliff. When we come back, Mitch's time in the SEALs transitioning to MMA. We'll do all that coming up next. I'm your host, Mark Zinno. Don't go anywhere. This is Kill the Quit, brought to you by Kill Cliff. Welcome back to Kill the Quit, brought to you by Kill Cliff. This week's guest, Mitch Smashing... Let me do this again. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Kill the Quit, brought to you by Kill Cliff. Our guest this week, Mitch Smashin Frog Aguiar, as I pronounce his name right finally, joins us here this week. Former Navy SEAL and MMA fighter, also is an entrepreneur, has a clothing line and superfood blend called Smashin Greens. All right, so you finish Buds and you become a Navy SEAL, but now you got to go to the teams and go through all that and kind of go through your hazing process there. Were you
allegedly hazing?
Well, I mean, hazing isn't the right word, I guess, but there's still like an indoctrination. When you get to the teams, it's not like all of a sudden, hey, man, we're just going to put you at the front of a mission. You kind of got to earn your keep and earn your way within the teams, right?
Definitely. I mean, when you get through Buds, you feel like invincible. You know, like I just made it through fucking SEAL training, blah, blah, blah. But they do a great job of reminding you that you're just a turd, you know? So in a sense, like you get this like real boost of confidence, but at the same time, like, you know deep down that you haven't done shit really, and you're around guys that have, you know, but around the rest of the world, you've got this like kind of confidence about you or whatever. But yeah, so then when you get to your SEAL team, then, you know, they quickly instill in you that you're a fucking new guy, you know, and you don't know anything.
The FNG. Yep,
the FNG. And you know, and that's it's a rite of passage. It's, you know, it's traditional, and I thought it was cool, you know. I embraced it. But it was also kind of, I think, easier for me to embrace it being young, you know, and like just kind of coming from high school into that was like I was used to their like being a structure, or a hierarchy, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, but I couldn't imagine like being like 30 and, having let me back up. When I was like a 1 platooner or 2 platooner, I was still in my early 20s.
Right.
So imagine like me in my early 20s being an asshole to some 30-year-old guy who, maybe has kids and like has already experienced a lot of life, and then me just like, you're a turd, go hit the surf or whatever. That was my biggest, for sure, my biggest crutch, maybe, or not crutch, what's the word? Flaw,
right.
I guess,
mm-hmm.
Was my maturity level, just being.
Did guys on the team pick up on it?
For sure. I mean, you got to think like most guys that made it through buds were, I would say, around 25 years old, and I was 18. So there's like a 7-year gap, and that's a big gap.
Sure,
yeah. Like 18 to 25, you're a totally different person. And so that I was with that group of people, and I joined the teams with them, and then I stayed in the teams with them for 10 years, so I was always kind of looked at as the younger guy with my group of peers. You know what I mean?
I meant to ask you this before as you were going through buds, and even it applies now, with the older guys on the teams bossing you around and the instructors at buds. Did that kind of bully mentality come back into your mind again like it did in high school, where there were people bossing you around and you kind of just wanted to resist that sort of authority?
I think with me, it was more so like I was really proud of myself, like for getting through Hell Week and becoming a SEAL, right? That I think a lot of people doubted me because I was young and stuff, so I had this kind of like ego to like be accepted, like by them, like, and they were all older and stuff like that, and they looked at me kind of like a kid and treated me kind of like that, and I'm thinking like I just did the same shit you guys just did, so give me some fucking respect.
Right.
And I wasn't getting it. So, I think it was like kind of like an insecurity of mine, and and I'd always grown up fighting, and I was always super aggressive, and I was always like real strong and shit, and I always took like fighting, or at that time like I'd like really took fighting as like my way of like proving that I was like an alpha male and I belonged, with those guys, and I think that's kind of where that developed. And I was like, if I can beat these guys' ass, like, that means I'm more of a man than you. In my 18-year-old logic.
So you were on a SEAL, were on a team for 10 years. At what point in time do you ever shed the Mitch is the young guy, go get him to do it moniker or kind of like label? How long does it take you to stop being the young guy? Or is it till somebody younger than you shows up?
Well, I would say it was more of a personal thing, because there were guys that were my age that were just super mature,
Mm-hmm.
and so like I wouldn't say that's like just across the board like that. It was my personality,
Right.
I was immature, and like I said, I think I had some insecurities about just wanting to be accepted and stuff, but I wasn't doing what I should have been doing, which was like, more mature, like be mature, really focus on what you should be doing, blah, blah, blah. And it was more like just dumb shit. Like I can get more girls, or I can fight, or whatever. And so it took me a while until I like kind of, I guess, realized that, and then started like doing what I should have been doing. And
Sure.
and then once I started like taking on like more responsibility in the teams, and like doing my job and doing it well and doing what I needed to do, then that started to go away, and rightfully so. You know.
So, I mean, it's hard to say characterize your time, on the team, but you look back on it now that it's over, and it ended rather, just recently for you. But 10 years is a long time. So what was the decision, the reason behind calling it a career?
The reason I got out was to fight full time, and it was, I had started fighting in the cage in MMA just as a hobby, as for fun. I truly just enjoy fighting, and I never intended on making it a career or anything like that. I had heard about a local fight league and Spartica Fight League, so I reached out to them, and I was at a jiu-jitsu gym training, and just asked, like, hey, I want to do this. I want to jump in there and fight. So I did my first fight and beat the guy up, and I was like, oh, that was cool. And I was like, yeah, I'll do the next one, whatever, and just kept doing that, and eventually I became the champion of 2 different weight classes and was ranked number 1 on the East Coast, and got invited out to Black House MMA to train, with some of the top guys in the world. And I had no idea really even that those guys trained there, like Anderson Silva and Lyoto Machida at the time. They were like the biggest names
in the sport.
And I like walk in, and I'm like, holy shit, this is crazy.
How were you able to balance that while obviously you were training while you were still in, right? And so between deployments and everything else, how did you balance all that?
Like I said, I would literally just go in there and fight just for fun. It wasn't anything like formal.
Oh.
So like, I had gotten in a ton of bar fights, all the time.
That was your
like
practice?
Fighting was like, and people were always asking me like, oh, are you nervous about your fight coming up? I'm like, what do you mean? No. It's just
had one about 6 hours ago in the bar. I'm good. I'm ready to go.
It's just a fight. What are you talking about?
That's amazing.
It was just fun. And then like once I like got to that level, and then training with some of those guys, and sparring with some of them and stuff like that, I was like, holy shit, like I always looked at those guys, like the UFC is like the NFL of fighting.
Sure.
And when you think of like a professional athlete, like a LeBron James, not, or he's a bad example, I guess, but anyone in the NFL or NBA, whatever, you think of those athletes like they're kind of like freaks of nature or something, it's just like very, very rare. And like being me, I was just like, I'm just Mitch. I'm just me, like I'm not a fucking crazy athlete, whatever. I'm athletic, but I'm not a freak of nature by any means. You know what I mean? So the thought of being like a professional fighter, like it was like a cool thought or an idea, but I never took it seriously or never thought that it could be me. And then once I trained with those guys and saw that, like, oh, they're good, but they're just normal people that just stuck to this and practiced and got to this level. And I was like, so I could definitely do this fuck, why not? And then I was like, well, fighting's kind of a young man's sport or whatever,
Sure.
and
gotta get where you can.
Yeah, I was like, so I definitely don't want to have any regrets. You know what I mean? Like, you're only young once. And so I was like, well, I've already been in the SEAL teams for a while, and I've climbed this mountain, and I was like, what? I'll go give that a shot. So that's why I do that.
What's been physically more challenging, being in the octagon or being, becoming a SEAL?
Definitely becoming a SEAL. Like going through buds and stuff is certainly more of a physical challenge than a fist fight. A fist fight,
what's more of a mental challenge?
The buds for sure. Again, because it's just long. Like I don't know. I just don't put that. Fighting isn't that big a deal. Like, you and I can fight right here in this room right now.
No, I don't want to do that.
And it's
Not
like
my best interest.
it's just not a big deal. You know what I mean?
Not
like,
to
we
you.
didn't have to.
Might be to me.
Yeah. I mean,
You
but
hit me in the face. It's my moneymaker. I'm out.
Yeah.
So, no, but I wonder, because there is a certain amount of, preparation you have to do for both of these things. Is there any similarities between becoming a SEAL and getting in the octagon?
maybe your will to fight. I don't know. And it's hard to say, because my mentality is pretty constant for everything. You know, I'm just like pretty extreme, and I'm pretty, I don't know, I just go all in with whatever I do. And like, if I'm fighting, whether it's fighting in the cage or fighting in Afghanistan, I'm going to fight to the death. So I don't know.
But maybe that served you well on both accounts, right? I mean, that's the thing that is the constant for you.
It definitely helped me in Afghanistan. And, I was kind of thinking about this the other day. I think I kind of had like maybe, I don't know if disassociation is the right word, but death, like how final death is, I don't think I really fully grasped it, or just didn't give it the respect that it deserved, I guess. But it really helped me overseas, because it helped me be kind of fearless, because I was like, I didn't like.
You have no fear going in the ring.
I have no fear
in Afghanistan.
No, I had no fear of. I mean, it was like scary, but I just like assumed that I would come out alive. Like I assumed, like obviously you don't know if you're dead, right? If you die, you die.
Right.
And then it's other people's problems.
Right.
But like, if I'm still here and I'm still awake and conscious and going through life, I'm still alive. Like, this is...
Well, usually...
The thought of, like, me dying didn't, I guess, really register fully, and that maybe helped me with my, like, fear. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I speak from my experience. Those listening know that, I'm still in the Army, and I did multiple deployments overseas. But it's not in the moment that you're afraid, or not in the moment that you confront your own mortality. It's kind of like after the fact, when you get back and you start to process it in your head, and you think about it, and you go...
Yeah. Or friends die or something.
Another 30 seconds, things would have went really bad. Or if I had showed up 10 seconds later, things would have been a lot different. And you start to realize that your mortality is something you have to come to grips with.
But I think that, obviously, I think the training does a great job of really kind of numbing you to it.
And in that moment, getting you away from that fear.
And you're with a bunch of badass dudes too, and you don't want to let them down. And, at least to me, like, I was like, I would for sure run to like gunfire to save one of my friends or whatever, like, without question. And I think that is just instilled in you, throughout training. And like, luckily in the SEAL teams, like, I was in training for like 2 years before I ever went overseas, and we're training, like, just getting drilled in your head, what to do. And they're training you for the craziest scenarios. So like, when the time, like, you actually get into like a real gunfight, you're like, oh, that was it? Like, man, we just crushed those dudes. It wasn't even,
Very unassuming attitude towards combat. That probably has served you well. Well, all right. So finally, where is your mixed martial arts career right now? What's next?
Right now, so I am probably not going to take another fight until like after the holidays and stuff like that, just because I want to go out and train at Black House and get some good training in and stuff like that, because I'm fighting in the LFA, and that's like essentially a feeder league to the UFC. If you do good in the LFA, you go to the UFC, and if guys do bad in the UFC, they come down to the LFA. So it's kind of like the minor leagues or whatever, for baseball or something. So the talent level is it's high, so I want to give it the respect that it deserves and really train and stuff like that, because all of my fights previous, it's been just kind of like, yeah, I'll go fight, whatever. You know what I mean? The weight cut for me has always been harder than the fight.
Oh wow. So, how long do you want to fight for? Do you know? Or just you're going to do it for as long as your body will allow?
Man, I don't know. I'm getting old, so I think I'm gonna give like fighting. I want to move to Los Angeles and train at Black House full time. I'm looking to do that like the end of spring of 2019, and hopefully I'll be out there. And I feel like I need to immerse myself, with guys that are way better than me. And just like, sink or swim kind of thing.
Sure.
And that's the mentality or the approach that I'm going to take with it. And I'm just going to give it a shot and give it all I got for probably till I'm like 35, and then see, where my life takes me. I have no idea. I have no plan really. I'm just kind of having fun.
Well, that's the only way to do it. Having fun and killing the quit, which you've obviously embodied not only through your Navy SEAL career, but now as a professional mixed martial arts fighter. Mitch Aguiar, thanks so much for being here. We certainly appreciate it. Good luck with the rest of your career. Good luck with the training. And I have no doubt that you'll be kicking some, inside the octagon. So good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Mitch Aguiar, thanks for being part of Kill the Quit, brought to you by Kill Cliff. I'm your host, Mark Zinno. We'll talk to you guys next week.